What's up, guys? Let's talk about putting together a budget for a flip project. So this is, I would say, the second most important part to valuing the property correctly. If you go over your budget, you could shoot yourself in the foot. You could lose a lot of money. There's a lot of potential for things to go wrong there. So you need to make sure you have a good estimate. You need to make sure that you have a contingency budget for when things go wrong, because they absolutely will go wrong. It's just part of the game. You kind of earn your stripes in some fashion in that sense. Chris has a wonderful process that he's going to share with us on budgeting and putting together a scope and putting together a rehab. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, let's be honest, there's no silver bullet here, and depending on the market and the contractors you choose, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and a lot of your budgets are going to be just not consistent. One thing to keep in mind is that you just have to be flexible based on your design, your contractors. You're not going to like what I have to say, but budgeting is one of the hardest things, and it can make or break you. It really comes down to your knowledge for materials and choosing the right contractor. That is something we can teach you about, and we will teach you about finding good contractors, ones that work with your personality and your design, and also your timelines. But also, I earned my stripes by going to every Lowe's and Menards trips and Home Depot trips, just knowing the cost of products. You don't have to be 100% accurate on knowing everything, but it's a good idea to have a good base knowledge, because one thing contractors hate are order changes or design changes, because that all costs money and time. It leaves your property on market a little too long sometimes. But the idea, just like this entire real estate course, is you need to have a broad knowledge. But it does come down to contractors. So I'm gonna zoom over to my screen here and kind of show you some of the things that I do in order to keep on track, although they're always changing. It's good for you to know what I use, and we will share all of these tools with you so that you can kind of see where things are. So one of the things that I use is my deal calc. And I grabbed this off of somebody from the internet, but I tested out with some other things. You can grab one off Bigger Pockets if you're a Bigger Pockets fan. This is what I use. I use this for my rental properties as well, my long-term holds, but I also do it for my flip properties. But it's really just gonna have you put in your purchase price, your down payment, and then a lot of repairs. And it's gonna spit out a number, see if you like it. I'm not gonna get into detail on this, because this is a whole other course. This will take 2 or 3 hours to really dive into projects. But I want you to see that I use an actual calculator that puts in real numbers for you. The big one is, once you find your contractor and you run them through a project, you're going to want to talk about scope of work. And scope of work is basically your repair budget, and the process is in order that you should do things. So I use several things. One is my property repair budget, and if you go here, this is actually from a project that I did on Allendale Street in Bloomington, Indiana. You'll see that my total budget ended up being $39,550. You see here, this is not a number I put in at the beginning. You're gonna put in the makeup of the property. And this is something that you may send to your lender later. A lot of lenders require you to send in your scope of work so they can determine if the budget and the funds they're gonna give you matches the project. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna sit down with your contractor. You'll do this with him or her at the very beginning, and after you do this several times, it becomes very repetitive. You'll be able to do this all by yourself. It just becomes second nature. So I start up at the top, and most of my projects don't require permits. Big time changes, adding room additions, adding a bathroom. Most of mine don't do that, but if I do, I'm going to plug it in. It'll spit out your budget at the end. So it always starts with demo. I put in my demo. I know that most of my demos are $2,500 or less, just depending on, all these are ever changing, but I just wanted to give you a framework of what I do. Roofing is a little low right now. For this project was done almost 2 years ago. Roofing's gone up now, so that's gonna probably look more like $5,000 all the way up to $7,000. If you're gonna do a metal roof, it could be a little bit more than that. But for this project, it was a fairly small roof. I just had $3,000 for that. That's what I was quoted. That's what I put down. A little bit of siding work needed to be done. Windows, you can see everything in here. It's kind of cool to go through and see all the things that need to be done. You could tell I didn't need any exterior paint, so I left that empty. HVAC is always in the 4,800 range, all the way up to I've paid as much as $7,000. That's just a quick phone call to your HVAC, your furnace, your air conditioning guy, see what he can get it done for. Framing, very little, because we didn't really do much. I think we may have just did some, half pony wall or something in the bathroom, something like that. Flooring was pretty cheap. We did, it was a small footprint, so we did a little bit of carpet, a little bit of luxury vinyl plank. But at the end, you can see, went through here. This gave us a good estimate of where we were going to be. I rarely ever land on this number. Usually it's plus or minus, 5%. You try to bargain shop some things. You can bargain shop things like lighting, any of your appliances in the kitchen. You can bargain shop that and get a really good deal at Lowe's, Home Depot. I use this, and it's, we were just talking, I've never lost money on a deal, and this is part of the reason. I will also do another one right over here. This one is more my notes, but I'll put in any of the things that I need for rehab. I do them both, and you can see I've used this one in the past on another project. And this really keeps me on task with my budget, okay? And if you do this, you're almost, most of the time you're not going to lose. It really sets you straight, gives you a nice path and goal to work towards. I'm going to switch over to this spreadsheet here. This will show you some of the properties that I had or have going on. And this will, these change, but this is the purchase prices that I had for some of my homes this year. And with that being said, I just go down and I look at the closing fees. And these closing fees are always changing as well. We'll talk about title companies later and the fees, but they're always somewhere for me in Indiana. They're always around the $2,000 range. Sometimes I'll bump it up to $3,000 once I talk to the title agent. But you always have to account in that factor. Let's see, contractor bid. So these are the bids. That's exactly what they say. That's exactly what I pay them. That's always in there, and then I go in here and I just put all the things that I need for expenses, and then it'll pump out a total expenses here. My expected sales price on this property was $330. That leaves me with the $58,000 margin for profit. A lot of times that goes above, sometimes it goes down, but again. You gotta make sure you get pretty accurate from your scope of work all the way over to this spreadsheet to make sure that that you're not losing any money and you're coming out profitable. So let's see, I have a contractor's payment tab down here. Make sure I'm always paying them on time. Utilities, my utilities tab will show what utilities that I have going on. This one is not one of my updated ones, but I'll write down the utilities company because you always have to connect utilities, making sure that you always have heat on so you don't have frozen pipes, things like that. If I'm working with a wholesaler, these are my wholesale fees. Make sure I'm pumping that into the expenses as well. But this is, and I'll share this with you guys as well as we get through the course. But this really keeps us on budget, make sure that we're profitable at the end. So not for sure if I have anything else to share in regards to budget, but it really comes down to contractors and knowing a good idea of how much your materials and products cost.
And I would say on the flip side of that, Chris hasn't lost money on deals. I have lost a lot of money on deals before, and it is from not doing stuff like this. We currently have spreadsheets built out. We have programs like that as well that track all of our expenses now. But when I first started, I was not organized. I didn't do a lot of that fine detail stuff, and I've lost in the tunes of six figures on some apartment buildings and stuff that I've done before. So it is very, very important to dial in that budget in order to save yourself that heartache. Yeah, we appreciate you for following along. We will give you all these tools and dig into them, teach you how to use them, how to adjust them for what you need, and we will go from there.